sell the clarified comforters or mattress protective covers if you need that at all. Okay.
Welcome to the Wayne Show on the Manitoba Sports Network. I got the head coach and general manager of the Steinbach Pistons, Paul Dyck. And Paul, right off the bat, that was a pretty good couple of days you had last week there. You beat the Selkirk Steelers, I believe, 3-0. And then you beat the reigning champs, Portage Harriers. And now this weekend you beat the Wayway Sakapel Wolverines. In a quick nutshell, sum that week up for me.
Well, we're obviously pleased with the results, and a lot of new faces in our group this year, so we're still getting a sense of what our team's all about. But yeah, they were tough games. Obviously, Selkirk's off to a great start, and Portage is Portage is Portage. I mean, it was such a tough game. It was a playoff-like type game here early in the year, so we really had to earn that one, and we got to see them firsthand. And obviously, they're going to be a strong club. And then on the weekend here, we scored a few goals, and maybe more than I thought we were going to, but it was good to see a few go in the net for us.
That Portage game in the second period started to get a little rough from what I saw. Is that a little bit from the last year's finals there, or was it just a typical day in the MJHL and everybody's trying to prove themselves?
Well, I think a little of both. It's early in the year here, and both lineups have players that are trying to establish themselves in our league, and it's only natural. There's a little spillover. We've obviously played a lot of hockey against that team in the last 4 years. We've played them every year in the playoffs for 4 seasons, so we're very familiar with one another. That type of intensity is quite normal when we face each other.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you started your coaching career in 2011 with the Steinbach Pistons as an assistant coach, and then the next season you got the head coach and won the championship. How was that transition from an assistant to a head coach and then into a championship coach been for you?
Well, it happened very quickly, and Matthew Radomski was also very cool, and we'll see what that number is at the end of the year. I mean, Roman has established himself as our #1 goaltender. We'll see how the year goes. I think it's too early to maybe give you a number like that. Hey, you know what? Ask me in March and I'll tell you.
Okay, I can do that. What does the #1 ranking in the CJHL mean to you, or as you or the Steinbach Pistons?
Well, we don't put a lot of stock in that number. I mean, it means we're playing well right now, but until the end of the year, it really doesn't mean that much. So we've been there before, or not? We haven't been #1 before. We were #2 a couple of years ago, and we didn't win the league that year. So I think it's more important on how you're playing at the end of the year. So I'm sure it feels good for the boys, and it's a little reward currently, but it's not going to put any wins in the win column for you. So we're still going to have to go out there and earn our next W.
Yeah, for sure. You have had a lot of coaches in your playing days. I believe you were like up in Germany or Europe there and stuff. All that knowledge that you've gotten from those coaches in the past, have you been able to rub some of that knowledge off on, especially the young players?
Well, I try to draw from that. I mean, there were some coaches that were very instrumental in my career and had a positive impact on mine. And I was fortunate enough to be in Pittsburgh's organization when Scotty Bowman was at the helm, and just played a few exhibition games for him. And although I wasn't there for a long time, I think anybody who spent any time around him certainly was influenced by him. And then played for Dave Tippett, who's currently the coach in Arizona. Spent 2.5 years playing for Dave in Houston, and probably the coach that had the biggest impact on me at the pro level. And then going to Europe, played for Butch Goring, another guy who had so much wisdom and liked sharing it with the guys, and tried to take as much of that in as possible. So, I wasn't sure what path I would take when I was done playing. I really didn't have any aspirations of coaching at the time, but here I am, and now I'm trying to draw back on all the experiences and how those coaches handled the team and managed players, I think is probably what I've taken the most, because the systems have changed so much since the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah, if I remember right, though, you were a defenseman, but back in the day, you weren't necessarily considered a big defenseman. Am I right on that?
You know what? Very average. I went to Pittsburgh training camp. I was about 6'1.5", 205 pounds, and I was average. So, when I got drafted, there was such a premium on size. I mean, you saw a lot of guys that were 6'5", 225. That was kind of the model at the time. The game has changed. I think there's room for players of all sizes, but back then I could have used a few inches in height and a couple pounds.
Were you considered at that time stay-at-home defenseman, or did you like to move the puck kind of Paul Coffey style?
Well, no, I certainly wasn't a Paul Coffey. My game changed a little. It had to evolve just to stay in the game. I think, coming out of junior, as a puck-moving defenseman, played on the power play, and I did that my first 2 years in the minors, and then made the transition to be a shutdown D-man, and it was really probably the strength of my game. I really enjoyed it. I think it allowed me to play for a few years longer than I would have had I not made that change. So, I just saw there were so many young kids coming into the game that were so talented, and I felt, well, I'm going to have to. It's like a pitcher when he gets older, he's going to have to add a few pitches to his repertoire.
Right. Who is your favorite coach, if you have one, in the NHL?
Well, I've got a lot of respect for Dave Tippett. Having played for him, I guess, would be a big part of that. But what he's done with the clubs that he's had, and I think he's a coach that the guys enjoy playing for. He's demanding. He's an intelligent guy, and so yeah, I have a ton of respect for Dave.
Who is your favorite NHL team?
Well, going back to my childhood, it's still there. It's the Montreal Canadiens. I guess Pittsburgh would be in that mix too, but growing up in the late 70s, watching those Canadian dynasties and Larry Robinson, Guy Lafleur, Ken Dryden, those are the teams that was probably where my love for the game first began.
There's a couple good players right there you named that would definitely be good guys to watch, or even to kind of idolize around. I know I was a Toronto Maple Leaf guy, and I had one guy that I considered probably the best power forward at the time. That was Wendell Clark, right? So I tried to emulate my game around him a little, but which got me in trouble most nights. But you guys got a home game on Wednesday versus the Winnipeg Blues. What can we expect from the Pistons on Wednesday night?
Well, hopefully we bring the same energy we've started the year here with, and the Blues are another team that we have a great rivalry with. And they're a very young, energetic group, so I expect a spirited game, and we just want to keep building. I think our objective here is to get better every week, and hopefully we're able to do that again on Wednesday.
Yeah, for sure. Because that's what you're in the game for, is just to get better every night, right? So. Last year you guys played the 60 games, had 42 wins, 15 losses, 3 overtime losses, and a winning percentage of .725. Are you happy with that .725, or do you think you can get that a little better and get yourself in that first place and stay first place to get that home ice advantage in the playoffs?
Well, you know what, we'll see. There's a lot of hockey to be played. If we were higher than that, we'd certainly be pleased with it. We were still a long ways back from first place, and it was probably the best winning percentage our organization has had. So, I don't know. We don't really look at that number as much as, how we're playing. And, I guess at the end of the day, that's kind of what it takes if you want to be in the mix at the end of the year.
Yeah, top 3 were Portage, Winkler, you guys, right? And that was a pretty good 1, 2, 3 that were leading the league last year. So, what's your vision for this team going forward?
Well, obviously, we go into every year. with the vision of putting ourselves in contention for a championship. We make just like probably every other club in our league, but it's something that's important to us. We've been close here the last couple of years and run into such a strong club in Portage, and we know there's going to be stiff competition again this year, but we feel we're in a pretty good spot right now. In the short term, that's absolutely it. We want to be in contention at the end of the year, and then we want to see guys move on. I think it's rewarding, and one of the reasons we're in this game, and certainly one of the reasons I'm in this game, is to see players develop and reach their potential. And if that next level is the Western Hockey League or NCAA, that's what we're looking for. I'd love to see all of our players that aspire to move on to have that opportunity.
You guys made a trade, I believe, last week to pick up a guy by the name of Carter Chorney. Why Carter, and what does he bring to the team?
Well, I was familiar with Carter. I know he had played in Burton last year, and so I'd seen him there, but was also a player I'd seen at the World Junior A Challenge Camp 2 years previous, and I thought he would just add some depth to our lineup, and he certainly has. And he's got some offensive upside. He's got a little bit of grit to his game, and I just thought he'd be a good fit, and he certainly has here to start the year.
Well, that sounds good, because you always want to get better, right? And I heard and read somewhere that you are trying to roll 4 lines every night. Is this what you're trying to do every night, or does that just depend on what kind of game you're playing at that time?
Well, we try to do that. It's kind of been our philosophy here for some time, but we feel that if you're going to be there at the end of the year, you certainly have to. That depth is vital, and so I think we learned that lesson the year we won the league. We went to Nanaimo to the Western Championships and just really lacked depth, and I think from that point forward, it's really been one of our goals every year to have 4 lines that can play against anybody in the league.
So I guess rolling 4 lines, I guess that would save Graham and Schoenbert and Koga and Chorney a little bit more for possibly next game in the event of a blowout or something, or a risk of injury if the game's getting really rough, I guess.
Well, it's a long season, and I think if you've got guys eating big minutes for the full season, it is going to take its toll on certain players. So just feel puts you in a better position as you go deeper in the playoffs, and hopefully are fortunate enough to do that. But I think in the big picture, it just keeps us fresher.
All right, well, Paul Dyck, thanks a lot for doing this. All the best this season. Congratulations on a hot start for your hockey club, and let's hope you guys stay healthy, and let's see you guys make a run for that cup this year.
Hey, I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Paul Dyck, head coach and general manager of the Steinbach Pistons. It's Wayne Kaunoff reporting live on the Wayne Show on the Manitoba Sports Network.